For the longest time, I stayed away from the Buzlok simply because of how it looks, but this is one of my most requested weapon reviews to date. So today, finally, we're gonna be diving deeper into this Mastery Rank 11 primary weapon, the Buzlok. As always, my name is Leyzar and I'm gonna be detailing a couple of builds, something cheap and affordable, something anybody can build, something for everyday use with Hunter Munitions, and we're also gonna be talking a lot about Eidolon Hunting setups. That said, if you're looking for something quick and dirty, you came to the wrong place. But if you wanna learn, then buckle up, it's gonna be a long one. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Buzlok. Let's begin by taking a look at how the weapon handles without any mods equipped. And for that I'm going to be taking my usual free shots. The Buzlok is a projectile based weapon. The speed of the projectiles, as you can see, is pretty solid. It seems faster than your average ordinary bow. Now the accuracy unfortunately isn't really there, 13.3, which is below average when it comes to assault rifles. However, you also are getting this sniper scope of sorts. The zoom is pretty standard, but at least you can see the distance between you and your target. Also, it ties in very nicely to the main feature of the Buzlok, which is the secondary fire. Your secondary fire will launch a homing beacon of sorts, and if it makes contact with an enemy, it will state the duration, which is 20 seconds, and the target that you are currently targeting. All of your projectiles from your primary fire will be automatically homing in on target, and that is absolutely bloody fantastic. It can come in very useful in Eidolon fights or perhaps in a boss fight or something like that. Now the homing part is not the whole shebang. You're actually getting a 50% critical chance bonus additive after on all of your homing projectiles, and that is definitely a huge boost for the Buzlok. And well, that's pretty much it. Again, 20-second duration, 50% critical chance bonus additive after, so it will stack on everything, as in after mods and all whatnot, just like Arcane Avenger works. Now let's jump into stats to see precisely what we're dealing with. Mod capacity is going to be 60 out of 60, and if your Buzlok has only 30 out of 30, jump into actions and install the Oricon Catalyst. Now this one can be found from alerts, invasions, or if you're lucky, from the daily sortie, and you can also pay 20 plat to have one installed. My Buzlok has been formatted a total of 7 times, and believe it or not, I wanted to format it one more time for a specific mod combination, but for the weapon build, I'm recommending you guys 4 format should do it. Unfortunately, the Buzlok doesn't come with any polarity, so I would recommend you simply slap on 4 V symbols. If you have a Riven, you're gonna go to 5, and so on and so forth. As you saw there, the accuracy is not fantastic at 13.3. We get a crit chance of 23%, and if we're taking into account the bonus from the homing missiles and all whatnot, we're going to be going to 73%. Keep in mind that that bonus will not be modified by any mods. The critical multiplier is also delicious at 2.5x, a fire rate of 6.25 with a magazine of 50 and quite a long reload at 3 seconds. If I have one complaint about the Buzlok, is that blasted long reload time. Riven disposition 5 out of 5, which means that the Buzlok is not a very popular weapon, which strikes me a bit odd because, as you will see, this is quite the powerful weapon. Status chance of 21%, solid, trigger semi, impact, puncture, and slash. Now, I don't understand this trigger semi. It's automatic. In primary fire, it is automatic. You don't have to spam your button, so keep that one in mind. Impact, puncture, and slash. The highest amount by far is impact. It couldn't be perfect, correct? Puncture follows suit, and slash is the lowest at only 6. Now, even if you were to slap on Fang Fusulu, you're still not gonna be gaining puncture or impact, so just forget about a status slash build. The beacon doesn't really matter. It honestly doesn't really matter when it comes to what damage it does, what status chance, what crit chance, and so on and so forth. It does have, however, a slightly higher accuracy, 16.7, which I believe is the default accuracy for bows in the game. Again, you're just gonna use this one to deal a whole lot of damage with your primary shot, and the accuracy is a bit better, so yay. In any case, that's gonna do it for the base stats. Let's start slapping on some mods, starting with mandatory mods, and we're gonna be slapping on damage first of all, as per the usual. Serration 165% extra damage, and you can also go to heavy caliber. Now, when it comes to using your primary shot without the beacon, this is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. But with the beacon, the penalty from heavy caliber becomes 100% negligible. So if you guys want to go for Eidolon hunts, then definitely go for heavy caliber. But let's be honest here for a second. In normal everyday missions, you're just gonna be running through, right? You don't really have the time to put the beacon and then shoot the bloody target. So keep that one in mind. Next, we're gonna go to multi-shot, the best thing on everything, split chamber as well as vigilante armaments, totaling 150% multi-shot. Multi-shot will not affect the beacons. You're still firing just a single beacon. Next, the crit chance and crit damage. Point Strike, 150% critical chance, and of course Vital Sense with 120% critical damage. Take a look at this, 57.5 crit chance, and if I take into account the bonus additive after from the beacon, I'm gonna be going to 107.5 on targets which are marked with a beacon. And 5.5x crit multi. Honestly, this is just bloody amazing. Next, we gotta decide what we're gonna do with the weapon. You can go for Hunter Munitions, you can go for a straight up elemental approach, and the weapon will perform fine with any of these builds. But let's go one by one as quickly as I can. First, we're gonna go to Corrosive Damage. Now, I love Corrosive Damage because it does fantastically well versus heavily armored targets. And more often than not, these are the pesky targets that are a bit harder to take out. Keep in mind that Corrosive also has a 75% bonus damage versus Ferrite Armor, which is one of the two armor types you're going to be finding on Grenier units. The other type is Alloy Armor, which is weak to radiation damage. Coincidentally, Eidolon joints are also equipped with that Alloy Armor, so bear that one in mind. Should we go for the 60-60 mods or for the 90 mods? To be honest, I would recommend a bit of a combo in this case. So we're going to skip High Voltage because it's kind of expensive and kind of hard to grind on Nilgar Planetaris, find all the free secret caches. Then upon extraction, you got a 5% chance of getting this one or Shell Shock, which is the exact same thing but only for shotguns. The sad truth is that eventually you will need both of them, so happy hunting, I guess. Stormbringer with 90% electricity. As for Toxin, this time we're going to be using the 60-60 mod. This is a lot more easier to farm from Corrupted War in the Void. If not from the trade chat, you're looking at about 10 plat, give or take. 60% Toxin and 60% status chance. Now, why did I choose to go for 160 and 190? Well, take a look at this. Take a look at the damage on my weapon. And keep in mind that when you're trying to figure out exactly what will proc first, Impact, Puncture, and Slash, the physical types have a 4 times greater chance at proccing over elemental types such as Corrosive. So if I was to multiply this blasted impact times 4, I'm going to almost 800, which is why I went for 190 and 160-60. I want to have a decent chance at proccing Corrosive. We still have one more mod slot left on the weapon, and into this one you can plug whatever you feel comfortable with. From my point of view, it's always more important to cater each and every weapon to your own individual playstyle. For example, a lot of players enjoy punch through. Metal Auger with 2.1 meters worth of punch through. Now keep in mind that if you were thinking that your projectiles with punch through are gonna go through the target, then swing around back and hit it again, that's not gonna happen. As soon as a target is hit by a homing projectile, it loses its homing capabilities. So bear that one in mind. You can also go for Shred or Prime Shred. Fire rate and punch through as well will make a significant difference on the Buzlok, but there are free, believe it or not, at this point, high value mods. Hunter Munitions, of course, because 30% chance to apply slash on critical hit, and while you do have only 57.5, if you take into account the beacon, then you're going over 100, so you're gonna get tremendous value out of Hunter Munitions. The other one would be Heavy Caliber, but this one is also conditioned by the beacon or not beacon. And the third one would be Bladed Rounds with critical damage. Keep in mind that your base crit multi is quite high on the Buzlok, so this one will be fantastic as well. Yeah, damn, which one do I use? Well, I don't know if you noticed, but Hunter Munitions and Bladed Rounds were both dependent on using your beacon. And if you're, again, in normal average everyday missions, I doubt you're gonna stand a while. Hold on, I'm gonna hit this target with a beacon and then I'm gonna kill him. You're just gonna probably fire. Hammer Shot, stop laughing. It's a decent option, 60% critical damage and 40% status chance. It will patch up the weapon quite nicely. Now I'm gonna go for this build initially. This is a cheapo build, stop screaming, alright? So we can see exactly what the weapon is capable of with nothing special on it. Then we're gonna move into fancy mod, yes, Argan Scope and blah blah blah. Now these will be level 120 corrupted heavy gunners and some enemies from Fortuna for the kicks and lols. First we're gonna go without the beacon, so we're not cheating and all whatnot. Then we're gonna go with the beacon. I simply don't believe it viable in average everyday missions when you're just running through to stop, put the beacon and then fire. So this is a more realistic performance out of the Buzlok. And as you can see, the weapon can definitely shred high level targets. It takes about 30-ish bullets to completely annihilate one corrupted heavy gunner 120. Now if I was to use the beacon, now my critical chance is guaranteed and you will see a big difference. Take a look at that. That is absolutely bloody fantastic. The Buzlok can be an amazing weapon, especially if you use the beacon, but again, that beacon's usability is kinda limited depending exactly on what you're doing. Okay, that's the cheapo build. Now let's move on into something else. Everybody's favorite Mumu, Hunter Mumu. And we're gonna be dropping Hammer Shot for Hunter Munitions, 30% chance to apply slash on critical hit, and we're gonna go to 100% only with the beacon. So each and every projectile that lands on my target, which theoretically is guaranteed, has that 30% chance to apply the slash from Hunter Munitions. Now when building a weapon for slash, it's a very smart idea to build a viral elemental combo. Toxin and Cold. Viral on a status proc will be reducing the maximum health of a target to 50% for the duration of the viral effect. So in a way, for that limited amount of time, your slashes are kinda dealing double damage. The point here is that you want to kill your target while under the effects of viral. Now sometimes that works out and sometimes not at all, so we're gonna be dropping Malignant Force and Stormbringer. We should go for the 90% mods, as I'm not really interested in getting 1000 viral procs like I am with Corrosive, for example, and I just need 1-2 good ones to get the most out of the build. So we're gonna go with Cryo Rounds and Infected Clip. There we go, now we have viral on the weapon, and we're gonna be testing the weapon like this, with beacon and no beacon, and we're gonna respawn these guys for the sake of consistency and all whatnot. Now let's see what the Buzlok can do with Hunter Munitions and viral. And that took about 20-ish bullets, something like that, and the target got completely obliterated. Now that is definitely a whole lot better than the corrosive build we showcased earlier. Now I'm not a fan of Hunter Munitions and I'm not a fan of slash based build, but when it's better, it's simply better, and that is that. And keep in mind that I'm not using the beacon just yet. I got solid viral on the target and plenty of slash, and if I switch to the beacon, it's gonna be even better than before. Take a look. Fantastic, absolutely bloody fantastic. The question would be, do you have time to beacon or not? That is a very big question. Depending on the encounter, you might have time or you might have not. The corpus, I don't know guys, you still want to see test versus these guys. Honestly, it's kind of pointless from my point of view, but here we go. What a fantastic weapon. Honestly, I did not expect the Buzlok to be this good. Now I understand why it was probably the most requested weapon review ever since I started doing weapon reviews like 8 months ago. But anyway, that's gonna be a way to the Buzlok, and this is the base build I'm recommending to you guys. It's gonna be through Hunter Munitions with Cryo Rounds or Prime Cryo Rounds if you have that one, and Infected Clip. But there is one more way to approach a slash build. Just drop viral altogether, and you can go for more critical chance and critical damage through Arcane Scope and Bladed Rounds. Now, how will Arcane Scope help me in this case? Well, it will help you with the off-beacon shots, and also you're going to be getting a higher chance at an orange crit, so therefore higher value slashes, because an orange crit will mean a higher critical multiplier. If you still don't fully understand exactly how critical chance and critical damage works in Warframe, link in the cards right now. Trust me, it's a whole lot more convoluted than it might appear, but again, we're going to be testing the weapon like this. Same targets as before, we're going to have to get a kill, just so we can get the benefit out of Bladed Rounds. There we go, we got a kill. Let's reload with no beacon initially. So there is no more viral. As you can see, there are a lot more slashes on the target without the beacon, simply because I do have that higher critical chance from Arcane Scope. Now, if I go with the beacon, I'm gonna be going to, what is that, 133%, I believe, critical chance out of the Buzlok. Take a look at that. The value of some of those bleeds, 3,678, unless I missed my guess there. Now let's put the beacon again and go. Awesome, absolutely bloody fantastic. Now, pound for pound, from my point of view, the best quote-unquote slash build for the Buzlok is going to be for Prime Cryo Rounds and Infected Clip. But if you have Arcane Scope and Bladed Rounds is like 10-15 plat from the trade chat, then definitely go for something like this. Just take a look, it is just freaking fantastic. Honestly, I did not expect to love the Buzlok as much as I do, simply because it's so ugly, and I stayed away from this weapon for the longest time simply because it is so ugly and there is no skin in the world that can help this much ugly. So there you go. But there's no denying this is one hell of a weapon. That said, we also have Riven Setups and all whatnot, so let's give it a go. Now, while I don't enjoy playing with slash and slash based builds, I cannot deny the power of Hunter Munitions in a crit based build. But again, if you don't have Arcane Scope or you don't want to spend the money for it, you can go for Cryo Rounds with Infected Clip, and from my point of view, the ideal setup of course would be with Prime Cryo Rounds. That said, we're moving into a Riven setup, and this is a Buzlok Acrican, critical damage multi-shot minus zoom, and this is a loner from a friend. Thank you very much, mate. Now, normally minus zoom is considered to be a quote-unquote harmless negative. I'll beg to differ in this case when it comes to Eidolon Hunting with a Buzlok. I had a much easier time landing my beacon with the full zoom. Now that said, the ideal Buzlok Riven would be something like critical damage, multi-shot, critical chance, and whatever you guys consider to be a harmless negative. It's gonna depend from person to person. Something like recoil, no problem at all, considering we are gonna be using the beacon in Eidolon hunts. This is a corrosive based build again because it's my build and this is how I like to play. The power of Dispo 5, however, will make one tremendous difference in mostly any weapon. Take a look. Even in the crack. Now that is definitely a whole lot better than before. And if I switch to beacon mode, I'm just gonna completely annihilate the target. Take a look at that. Now this is one hell of a weapon, but you gotta ask yourself, will you have the time for the beacon? What if the Amprex guy shows up and clears the entire room before you even get a chance to land that stupid beacon? So yes, definitely the weapon does have some drawbacks, but I feel it's a bit unfair to compare it to AoE weapons such as the Amprex, but again, in normal average everyday missions, unless you're going solo, you will meet the guy with the Amprex and then you're gonna be like, damn it, this weapon sucks. And you know what? No, it does not suck. This is a fantastic weapon and I do recommend it. Now let's move to those Eidolon builds. What you're seeing now is a build for everybody except Chroma, and I'm gonna detail that just a tad later. You got damage with serration, heavy caliber, multi-shot with split chamber, vigilante armaments, critical chance, critical damage, and of course the radiation elemental combo between Hellfire and Stormbringer. Keeping in mind that the Eidolons are fully immune to status effects, there's no need to touch status chance here. What you want is the biggest wallop of radiation you can, because Eidolon joints are protected by alloy armor, which takes 75% more from radiation and 25% more from cold, and just keep that one in mind for a second. When it comes to heavy caliber penalty accuracy, it won't matter as long as you use your beacon, and you're supposed to use the beacon on a joint before the shield drops, so keep that one in mind. It will still count, and as soon as the shield drops or even before, you can start firing, taking into account the projectile travel speed. And that's it for everybody except boy Chroma. When it comes to Chroma, this is going to be a bit harder to explain. The build you're seeing now is your standard 957 Chroma or selfish Chroma. This is the build most people use when it comes to Eidolon hunting. In well-organized teams, Chroma comes in with a sniper and just one shot or two shots to the joints, and he's the only one that's kind of dealing damage to the joints, so bear that one in mind. That's how you do 5 caps or 6 caps on PC at least. I know the guys on console have trouble with that because of the long loading times. If I jump into his abilities and take a look at Vex Armor, you see the damage increase is 957. This damage increase works like serration. So basically this is one huge serration. Think of it like that. There comes a point because of this huge damage increase that slapping more elemental damage on the weapon will be a lot more valuable than simply adding serration or heavy caliber, because again, you do get that 957% increase from Chroma. So all the elements on the weapon, your cold, your radiation, and so on and so forth, will be getting increased by this huge amount. Now, I'm fully aware that a concept such as that might be a tad hard to swallow, and to be honest, the first time I heard about it, I thought they were crazy, but after running the math, I changed my mind. What we're gonna do next is get a base damage output for this build with 957 Chroma, and in order to do that, I'm gonna have to get some alloy armor to shoot, so therefore corrupted bombards. Alloy armor is the same armor you guys will find on Eidolon joints. And I'm gonna get my damage buff from Chroma Vex Armor using Hiku Prime. Link in the cards right now for a full review on it if you guys are interested. Now please keep an eye on my consistent damage. 6295 on yellow crit, 6295, 6295. I think it's safe to assume that the headshot crit is 6295 on yellow crit. Very well, let's change things up a little bit, and I'm gonna be adding the most puny of mods. I'm gonna be going with more heat through the use of Wildfire, and I'm gonna be dropping heavy caliber. It can't possibly make a bigger difference than the mighty heavy cal, right? Well, let's take a look. Once again, same targets as before. Damage buff from Hiku Prime. There we go, 957 buff. 7139, 7139, 7139. Now that made a huge difference. I dropped heavy caliber, went for a bit more heat, and I got a whole lot more damage. Now there's one more thing. A lot of players like to use prime cryo rounds instead of serration. You might be aware of that. Cold damage has 25% bonus damage when hitting alloy armor, so it will make a difference, but it's not gonna be huge. We're gonna be dropping serration, the same 165% damage, and we're gonna be applying prime cryo rounds fully maxed out. I'm fully aware that you guys are expecting a huge difference, but as you will see, it's not really that huge. It is a difference though. Once again, same targets as before, respawn for consistency and all whatnot. 7192, just a bit better, just a tiny bit better than with Serration and 165% damage. So that can get you to thinking, if Wildfire with just 60% heat made that huge of a difference, then wouldn't more heat or more any source of more radiation make a bigger impact than the mighty prime cryo rounds? And you would be correct. Thermite rounds, 60% heat, never mind about the status chance, is irrelevant, all I want is the radiation damage. Same as before, 957 Chroma. $7,708. Take a look at that. Once again, a huge damage jump. Much higher numbers than before. I felt it was necessary to show this whole shebang simply because just telling it to you guys seemed so far-fetched and unrealistic, but as you can see, this is gonna be your ideal Eidolon Hunting build with the Buzlok, going for Wildfire, Thermite rounds over heavy caliber, over Serration, over prime cryo rounds. Do not drop multi-shot. A lot of players like to underestimate the value of multi-shot, and just because Vigilante Armaments is a bronze mod doesn't make it weak. I know what you're thinking, go for even more radiation damage with electricity and high voltage. It would be a bad idea to drop multi-shot and it would be a DPS loss. Take a look at it like this. With split chamber alone, you got a 10% chance per shot to fire a single projectile. With Vigilante Armaments on, you got guaranteed 2 projectiles per shot, so therefore doubling your damage, and a 50% chance at a third projectile. Once again, multi-shot is a very big deal in Warframe. That said, I got some Eidolon footage for you guys so you can see how the weapon performs in actual gameplay. So what did you think? Not bad, is it? Definitely not. Honestly, the Buzlok performed a whole lot better than I was expecting. And while the weapon is fully capable of taking out Eidolons, it does not stand up to something like the Rubico Prime, the Lanka, or the Victus Prime. Those are your main 3 Eidolon hunting weapons. But this weapon is catered to a very specific player. If you're having trouble aiming, and I'm not judging, then the Buzlok will help you out greatly, and I do recommend the weapon. One more thing before I go, Arcane Synergies. Arcane Avenger are free. On damage, 14% chance for 30% critical chance for 8 seconds. Now this one will synergize fantastically well with the Buzlok, and it's a bonus additive effect, so it works kind of like how the beacon works for the Buzlok. So again, it adds on top of everything. As for your second Arcane, I would recommend you increase your burst on those joints. So Arcane Acceleration on critical hit, 20% chance for 60% fire rate rifles for 6 seconds. And my friends, that's gonna do it. Hopefully you understood and learned a whole lot today. That was the goal of the whole video. As always, my name is Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you got any feedback for me, then by all means, leave it in the comment section down below. Also in the comment section down below, if you want to request a specific weapon review. I can't exactly promise you that it will be done by next time or even within a week, but I will be reading through each and every comment. You can also find me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. Until next time, my friends. Bye bye.